We have representation from 16 markets from the buyers that are joining us here. Argentina, Canada, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Germany, Italy, Mexico, Poland, Puerto Rico, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Spain, Switzerland, Trinidad and Tobago, the UAE, United Kingdom, and USA. We have 83 buyer companies joining us. We also have several travel advisors from the US and also from the Caribbean that are joining us for this Caribbean travel marketplace. From a supplier perspective, we have 173 suppliers being represented from 25 Caribbean destinations joining us this year at Caribbean Travel Marketplace number 43. And we're delighted about the number of appointments that were pre-scheduled for the event, and we know the number of appointments increases after the main schedule is distributed with additional appointments. Close to 9,300 appointments were generated. To us, that is a significant milestone because, of course, that's the main purpose of Caribbean Travel Marketplace, generating those business-to-business meetings between the suppliers and the buyers in attendance. We'll share the numbers with Claire so that she can distribute to all of you. But I will ask Karen for additional feedback. Yes?
How many delegates altogether?
In total, we have close to 780 delegates. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's so great to be here this morning, and thank you, all of our favorite storytellers. We love you dearly, and we appreciate your support. I know it's a long day for you. You've already had several meetings, but we appreciate you being here with us. This morning I did a couple of interviews, and everybody keeps on asking me, what makes this a unique show? There's so many travel shows around the world, and what I said earlier, we are unique in that we're not selling the world, we're selling the Caribbean. We are a region of 34 amazing, diverse countries. We're coming together for a specific purpose, and that is to focus the highlight on the diversity, the offerings, the opportunities that we have in the Caribbean to showcase who we are and what we are. Yesterday, I attended the Travel Forum, as many of you were there, the MasterCard presentation. I thought it was interesting. He started his presentation by saying the number 2 amazing resource that we have in the region is our beaches, sun, sand, and sea. But number 1 is us, the people. And that's really what makes the difference. And I think that's the importance of Caribbean Travel Marketplace, number 43 years and beyond, is that this is a human connection. This is an opportunity to come together, to shake hands, to hug, to see faces. It's not transactional. It is very much about partnerships, it's very much about relationships, it's very much about engaging and understanding each other's needs and opportunities. In closing, I just want to make a mention about the selling floor. This year was a big milestone for us, if you will. For 42 years, Travel Marketplace has been almost a similar setup with the pipe and draping, the old-fashioned pipe and draping. So we've innovated ourselves. And I think it's amazing how we're using technology, we're using the opportunity to showcase in a destination that wouldn't normally have been able to host a marketplace because of the traditional setup. So we're here in Antigua this year because of the reimagination, the reinvention, and I think the selling floor looks amazing. The feedback that we're getting is extremely positive. So I'll stop with that. Happy to answer questions at the end, but at this point, let me turn over to our president for some additional highlights for CHTA. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Karen mentioned, it really is a year of innovation for us at CHTA, and with regards to our primary event, CHTA Marketplace. This is not marketplace as usual. Certainly when you look at the trade show floor, I was speaking to a buyer today who had never been to CHTA Marketplace, and he said that this, in terms of the setup, the look, the feel, the professionalism of it is better than anything that he has certainly attended. And he's attended some big trade show, including high tech, by the way. So he was very, very, very impressed with how ours looked. He said he felt it flowed very well. And he said it looked like people were having a lot more fun. And I go, of course we are, we're in the Caribbean. And in particular, we're in a Caribbean island that holds a special place in my heart because this is where I honeymooned 21 years ago. And Antigua and Barbuda is also special because as a president who's from St. Lucia and from the OECS, a lot of people, when I took over the presidency, said, hey, are you going to bring Marketplace to St. Lucia? Well, of course, we don't have the venue, although we did host it way back in 2009 using a tent. But we don't have the permanent venue, so the closest I could do was to bring it to the OECS in Antigua. I'm so proud of them. I was actually mentioning to Craig, the chairman of the CHTA, that this is actually, in terms of population, the smallest island that has hosted CHTA Marketplace by quite some way, because St. Lucia is almost double the size as is Barbados in population. So for an island with a population of just over 100,000 people, to host something to such a high degree, it really shows that as a region we really can punch above our weight class regardless of the size of the island, because every single place that we hosted, whether it be the big three in Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Bahamas, or now in other Eastern Caribbean islands like Barbados and Antigua, who I can safely say are now part of the permanent rotation at CHTA Marketplace, it's clear that we can do amazing things, especially with the change in format. One that I know we've been trying to do for quite some time, and I'm really happy that our board and those involved in organizing were able to see the wisdom, because now we can look at other destinations potentially. We don't necessarily need to limit it. There are 32 member destinations, we don't need to limit it to 5. What also makes this marketplace so different is we added some new components, some that I'm very, very proud of. I've always said that 3 of the pillars that I certainly want to base my presidency on are our people development, integrating technology into how we do hospitality, and of course linkages and linking tourism to other aspects of the economy. So this year we have our first linkages showcase, which is being held in the Sea Grapes Pavilion, so under the tent. And we've got suppliers, we've got manufacturers, we've got persons from the agricultural sector. We have the person who provided me this very nice tie. We've got all of them here now providing services to hospitality, which really showcases that we're more than just about hotels. And we also on Thursday are going to be hosting the very first inaugural Direct Booking Summit, which I'm extraordinarily proud of. And I'm really grateful that the powers that be, so to speak, you'd think it would be me, but the reality is I have been trying to sell this idea for many, many years. I'm glad that they saw the wisdom, really honored that we're having the first Direct Booking Summit focused on using digital technology, social media, online marketing to allow hotels to get more bookings direct. It's not necessarily direct versus travel partners, it's about getting that right mix. We usually, when you go to any of these digital marketing conferences around the world, if you see 10 or 12 Caribbean hotels, you're lucky. But we have 80 of delegates, and that is so far the largest congregation of Caribbean hotels at a digital marketing conference. And I know that is only going to grow from there, and that's something that we're extremely proud of. Of course, we had our Responsible Tourism Day activities for the 2nd year in a row. And it's great when you go out into the community, great from a feel-good perspective, and also great from a PR perspective. But when we talk about being involved in the community and with the people, we of course know the weather situation that we had here in Antigua, especially those of you who were here earlier in the week. It almost made us wonder if we'd be able to have this marketplace or if we'd have to postpone certain events. Thanks to the creativity of the team on the ground, Antigua, and the CHTA led by Vanessa, we were able to make some slight adjustments, but every single event went ahead as planned, including the Responsible Tourism Day activities. But of course, some of our board members missed it as a result of a change in our board meeting. But we did another more important Responsible Tourism Day activity at our board meeting when realizing that some of the employees in the industry were impacted and their homes were impacted by the flooding. We made a commitment of $10,000 to persons who were affected by the flooding, not just in Antigua, but in other islands that also were impacted at the same time. And that really is just seed funding for a larger campaign that we're going to be launching later today. At the end of today, to get buyers and sellers to really do real responsible tourism in real time, because the backbone of our of our industry is of course our employees and our workers. They are a real superpower, and some of them clearly were impacted in certain communities. So again, definitely a marketplace of a difference, and we're very grateful for you, the media, being here to help tell the story.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
You want to talk a little bit about advocacy and what we've been doing?
Of course, I mentioned the 3 pillars of my presidency, but advocacy is what our primary job of any association or a chamber of commerce or any of these trade associations. From an advocacy standpoint, there are a few things that we mentioned at the Caribbean Travel Forum. We are, of course, a collection of 32, thereabout HTAs, and as someone, I previously was the president of the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association, and even when I was the president, I've always chaired the advocacy committee. Up to today, I chair the advocacy and tax committee. Whenever you face any advocacy challenge in your island, the first thing you wonder when a new tax is introduced or new legislation or new labor law is what exists all over the Caribbean. So then you have to pick up the phone, text, WhatsApp, email, every single association to find what exists. So we're going to take a lot of the hassle out of that by creating an advocacy repository, which basically takes the top 4 or 5 hot button issues that are common to the islands, and we're going to do the research for you so that you have a living, breathing document and database that shows what is the state of play in all of these different areas, really adding value to our members and to our member HTAs. We've had some very early, I'd say, advocacy wins. I also chair the advocacy committee, and we're really thankful to my predecessors for some of the good groundwork that has been done in certain areas. But I took over in September, and in October we faced our very first challenge with proposed tax legislation that would have essentially removed all incentives for hotels in the Dominican Republic, one of our major destinations that had relied on these tax incentives for growth. We became aware of it on a Wednesday. We had a statement in Spanish on Thursday, and we had a statement in English on Friday morning, and by Saturday the legislation, through collaboration between us and Asana Horace, the HTA in Dominican Republic, the legislation was repealed. And we certainly lent our voice to that, and it's something that we were very proud of and really showcased the power of collaborative effort because we highlighted the best practices and why it was important for these incentives. Of course, one of the biggest challenges we've had of late, geopolitically, in addition to tariffs, was the introduction of port fees on ships built in China, which if it had come into place would have had a tremendous impact on the cost of operation and just the general cost of living, not just for hotels, but for just people who live here in the Caribbean, for our communities. And we worked with the CARICOM private sector organization, the CPSO, Tropical Shipping, and others, and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, and we collaborated to share data to really showcase the impact that this would have, not just on us in the Caribbean, but on businesses based in Florida, the shipping businesses based in Florida. Fortunately, and we did make a formal submission to the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR, and fortunately the Caribbean is exempted from that imposition of the port fees. Again, the CHTA had a massive part to play in that. We've also done some advocacy with regards to alternative energy legislation and making sure that our islands can be green and competitive from a sustainability standpoint. That was a paper that's of public record, and it was released on Earth Day last month. And of course, intra-Caribbean airlift, which is something I've always been very vocal, and all my predecessors have been doing tremendous groundwork for a decade and maybe decades. We seem to have had a bit of a breakthrough because I know that Barbados and St. Lucia both agreed that in this summer, from June to December, they are going to cut the taxes on regional travel in half, because intra-Caribbean travel is very important now, given what we're seeing geopolitically. We need to diversify, and we've got a great opportunity right here in our region. And I guess I did a little bit of on-the-ground advocacy with our dear Prime Minister here in Antigua. Hopefully we're able to convince him, because he was not aware of what Barbados and St. Lucia had done. And he's saying, wouldn't it be great if we could all cut our taxes on regional airlift? I said, well, funny you said that. 2 of us have. So we're continuing the advocacy in real time, advocacy at the speed of light, I call it. And this is really what our members expect from us, this is what they pay their dues for, and we'll continue to advocate on those and other issues that are extremely important to Caribbean tourism and by extension our Caribbean communities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Yes.
German Abel here. Two questions from you. One, can you go a little bit more into details in terms of this intra-regional tax that you've been speaking about that Barbados and St. Lucia would have reduced? Can you just give us a sense in terms of percentages?
Correct.
And so forth, and whether or not you've gotten any other commitment from the other territories that this is an initiative that they're going to be involved with. Additionally, the hotels across the region, what's the sense that you've been receiving in terms of feedback when it comes to this whole discussion surrounding resilience within the sector? We're preparing for the hurricane season. It's up and down. We saw what happened last year. We saw what happened the year prior. What's the CHTA doing in terms of resilience building across the region when it comes to the hotel sector?
Okay. So on the first point of the intra-Caribbean travel, again, this is something that's not new. We've been advocating to, and I know our immediate past president, Nicola Madden-Gregg, had advocated for dynamic taxation, right, where we do our room rates, where we vary in low and high season, we do the same thing for our tax rates. St. Lucia and Barbados are cutting their taxes in half, so to 50% for intra-Caribbean travel for June to December. They have announced that. Have we gotten commitments? Not anything that is legislated. Even St. Lucia's own was a budget announcement. The legislation still has to go through. I think Barbados' own is already through. But we had at the Caribbean Travel Forum a great session on intra-Caribbean airlift and the challenges, and more importantly, one of the things that we challenge all speakers at the Caribbean Travel Forum to do is to not make this another talk shop. Whether we had a session on sustainability, we had a session on intra-Caribbean travel and another one on linkages. And every single one of them had to come with at least 3 actionable insights that we could implement right away, which we did. One of the speakers there was Valerie Demasso, the Commissioner of Tourism for St. Martin, French St. Martin. And she's really a rising star in this field because she has been advocated strongly for reduction in taxes and in the regulatory environment for intra-Caribbean travel. So I can't say we made a breakthrough, but I sense that something is coming through for St. Martin because it's considered a potential hub for the Caribbean. I heard here at the St. Lucia Tourism Authority press conference that they actually see it as a strategic market because of its connectivity to Europe. So there's a lot of focus even by St. Lucia on that. I also see good potential right here in Antigua. It wouldn't be the first time that Antigua has reduced taxes on a regional airlift. I think they did it in 2021 coming out of COVID, but perhaps it was still a little too soon because of the restrictions and mask wearing and social distancing and so on. Now that life is pretty much back to normal, I think it would certainly be something I'd hope that they'd consider again. On the second question with regards to resiliency and sustainability, certainly something that is very, very important to us. There are a number of papers that we have produced in terms of best practices, and every June we collaborate with CTO on resiliency series, but specifically our hurricane preparedness series, really to remind persons of the things that they need to have in their hurricane and just disaster preparedness plan, because as you know, it's not just hurricanes now that could have an impact on us. Some places have, St. Vincent have volcanic eruptions the other time. Now you have to be aware of earthquakes and so on. In terms of, I'm hoping, is there anything else we've had?
The food waste program.
Well, the food waste, well, yeah, that's our resiliency as well. So we do have a food waste program, a study that we're participating in, and we have a number of sustainability related projects that we're doing. I'm trying to remember the one with, not the food waste, the other one that we got a grant for.
The circular economy.
The circular, right? So
yeah,
we do
but that grant hasn't been confirmed yet.
Oh, okay, too early. So there are a number of things that we have done or are working on. So scratch that one from record. That's not confirmed, but we're going to get it confirmed. Feel fairly confident in that. I'm trying to remember the others first, so you can help me out.
Yeah,
Yesterday there was reference about what has been doing in Antigua and Barbuda from a coral reef perspective. We have continued our work with the Nature Conservancy, and later in June we have launched a coral reef stewardship award, and later in June we will be sharing details about the recipients. And the idea behind it was not only to recognize one or two best programs in terms of maintaining and sustaining coral reefs, but also compile best practices of what has been done across the region. And it's critical that in everything that we're doing, you're going to be hearing a lot about best practices. But as the representative of such a collective, 32 destinations across the Caribbean, everybody is different, but we all have the same challenges and opportunities. And the industry will continue to strengthen if we have the capacity of continuing to share all of the good results that across all of the destinations are doing. So definitely from that perspective, coral reef is one. The food waste, even though we don't have the grant for circular economy yet, but there has been plenty of work that was done to prepare for the submission of the grant in St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominican Republic, and I'm missing a fourth destination, that if we are not successful in receiving the grant, we have so much information that has been collected that we will be in a capacity to produce a paper to share with our membership on best practices and recommendations moving forward. Yes, Janet?
We came in very late because we didn't realize that you had started. And we would love to find out from you whether you said that you had over 9,000 appointments that were made, whether or not you said you had an increase in the number of participants this year, and whether or not you said that you have been seeing, although we know that the tour operators have consolidated, whether or not you have had new tour operators from different regions that you have targeted or emerging markets. So if you could just
Definitely a
give us an
recap.
idea on that,
Definitely.
we
So
would appreciate it.
over 9,300 appointments, which is the second largest in the past 4 years. We did see a reduction on the number of tour operators that were in attendance. We have 83 wholesaler buyer companies representing 16 markets. It is a trend that we know it's happening at other global B2B events because of everything that's happening from a geopolitical perspective. We have, if you bear with me, I'll give you the specific number of how many new buyers we have this year. I believe the number is, I have it right here, 15. Canada, Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, United Kingdom, and the USA. In terms of niche markets, we continue to have representation from destination wedding specialists. We do have 2 MICE buyers that are coming, that are here at the event. But another thing that we're doing as well is expanding. The way people are doing business is changing, and there are new ways for travel to be purchased. So we have in some of the buyers in attendance some direct booking buyers, right? We do value definitely the wholesale community. It is critical for the distribution, right? But it's expanding and bringing to the membership and the stakeholders that are here as many of the opportunities where travel can be generated and purchased.
When you say direct booking buyers, can you explain
Yes.
that for me, please?
Sure. So I think when we think of buyers, you think of a tour operator who contracts static rates with you at a net rate and then marks it up and sells it to someone else. A direct booking is one that you generate yourself from your website or from your call center. That's a direct booking as well, and the voice is still important, or email is still important for some markets. But it's not the traditional type of buyer. You don't just go and people don't just come to your website. People don't just come to you. You have to work with digital marketing agencies and others to help you generate that booking. So we consider them buyers because they are part of that direct buying ecosystem. You work with them to allow yourself to get those direct bookings. So we do have some who've been attending for years as buyers. There's one who offers a loyalty program for that can be used by independent hotels. There are agencies, there are persons who focus on digital marketing, social media, all things that allow you to get a booking directly. So there are a number of them. The one I mentioned to you who said that this trade show was better to him in terms of the setup, or certainly prettier looking than high tech, is a direct booking buyer. He focuses, or their company focuses on using programmatic ads and so on to allow hotels to get those bookings directly. So those are some of the ones that we are bringing, and some of them are also going to be in attendance at the Direct Booking Summit, which we're really looking forward to, and hopefully some of you are around as media to cover it, because it's really a special moment in Caribbean tourism. Because when we talk, as much as we know we're always going to need travel partners and tour operators, but when we talk about trying to keep more of the tourism dollars, so to speak, in the Caribbean, direct bookings are a very important part of it. Because the reality is, when you work with the travel partners we need and love, there's a certain percentage of that booking that goes out to the UK, to the US, and so on. With a direct booking, more of it is able to stay in the Caribbean because you don't have to pay a commission. So we are getting persons who are helping us to get more of those, not necessarily to compete with or to replace the travel partners, but to really get that right balance in terms of distribution between direct and third party, because you need both in reality.
The nomination from Good News, I wanted to find out what does the CHTA think about the event that would have stayed this year, and what led to the selection of Antigua and Barbuda?
I am very happy for how the event has gone in terms of the quality of the venue, the layout, the setup, how quickly Antigua and Barbuda was able to pivot again in the face of the weather situation. I think that it's certainly going to become a permanent part of the rotation. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee it, because they've done such an outstanding job as host. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
What led to the selection of Antigua?
Well, that started from Marketplace last year. We were on the trade show floor, and I had not attended officially. I was president-elect at the time, but in conversation with Vanessa and our president Nicola, we kind of got the impression that Antigua may have a facility. I'd never heard of this facility. We're in A, we never heard of it. But we had a few posts there. The SITS conference was coming up, and one of our past presidents, Caroline Trebetskoy, who you all know, was going to be attending in her capacity as chair of the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, one of her many hats. So we asked her to basically do some on-the-ground reconnaissance and said, if this facility is able to host 3,000 people for a SITS conference, surely it can host CHTA Marketplace, albeit it's more a trade show format. So we got a lot of enthusiasm from Antigua very early. I love the fact that they were innovative in thinking of incorporating their restaurant week and making it a restaurant month, again, to get the independent restaurants involved in it. They were just really, and when we were meeting with ABHTA, the private sector was right there, like right there from very early. Craig and Colin and the entire team were very engaged and very involved from the very beginning. So of course there's an RFP process that we put out, but Antigua came forth with by far the most interest in hosting it. And again, like I said earlier, I've always really thought that it would be great to bring it back to one of the smaller islands, to the OECS, to expose the travel trade, media, etc., to other parts of the Caribbean when we host Marketplace. So really it was the enthusiasm that they showed, and the high level of organization for a destination hosting for a new time was incredible. So obviously when it's the first time, there are always things that you learn as a destination, but I think their learning curve is not going to be too steep. We're going to definitely be